Alright, so we're always advancing. Alright, so look. We're talking about the class. We're talking about the class action, right? And the compassionate investigation. No, the investigation of compassionate. No, the passionate investigation on drugs. Right. Dealing with the Class Action Act, U.S. Code 19-240, 18 U.S. Code 242. This ties down to it, apparently. But look, this does say low key. Alright, this is a piece of it. Let's get it. Just peep what Shorty say, alright? So I get a lot of folks that have been asking me, I'm just not sure. It seems like it was rushed. It's new technology. What should I do? And it is new technology, but that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. We're always advancing, and this is a very new technology. I thought this was medicine. I thought it was a drug or medicine. Because this is coming from a nurse, right? Or a doctor. She's not speaking on the technology used to make it. She's saying this is new technology. The vaccine is technology. I thought it was a drug. Well, let's just let this bitch speak. So I get a lot of folks that have been asking me. Sorry I gotta call her a bitch, but this is what I see in doctors. Ever since I hopped on Clubhouse in the beginning of my awakening, I was realizing what was going on, the process of it. I was dreaming it, and then I was seeing the words to find it, because it's not like I was dreaming it, I was remembering it. I am a soul that's been here before, many times. Old soul. Big game. This bitch is lying on self. I'm just not sure. It seems like it was rushed. It's new technology. What should I do? And well, she's not hiding. She's trying to cover up what she really knows, which is another form of lying to herself, which is bad still. It's new technology, but that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. If she's lying to yourself, and this is a very novel vaccine that's proven to be very effective. And really, when you think about the benefits and risks of taking a vaccine, you have to consider what are Peep what she said, the benefits and risks. Proven to be very effective. And really, when you think really about prove all this shit, bro. Benefits and risks of taking a vaccine, you have to consider what are the risks of disease. Your chance of ending up in the hospital or dying is much more substantial from the disease than it is from the vaccine. If you have symptoms or side effects from the vaccine, it's going to be the first 1 to 3 days likely after the vaccine. You're not going to have any sore throat, loss of taste, loss of smell, respiratory cough, or those types of symptoms, congestion. That is not going to be from the... This is a new tablet of me trying to redo shit. I got 2 tablets full of shit. 3. Time to write a book. Is this bullshit? You see how, look, this is people from the hood. When you need to learn if somebody's capping or not. You can't, but the thing is, anxiety can get in between. That's why y'all niggas just be starting shit for no fucking reason. Because you're not seeing the light in between. You're only seeing one side, and that's it. You're not seeing how everything can be squashed down the middle. Because you're only worried about yourself, which is selfish. But the thing is,
When knowing thyself or focusing on self, that doesn't mean to become selfish. Because when you're doing so, you realize your reflections around you. And that's when it comes to some God talk. But look, I'm gonna play what she said one more time.
Been asking me, I'm just not sure. It seems like it was rushed. It's new technology. What should I do? And it is new technology, but that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. We're always a
Okay, so this doctor is talking about vaccine, but she's saying it's new what? New technology. Alright. So look, this new technology, right, deals with the class action, right? How you could prove using the class action, right? Using your rights to do so. But this ties down to how the conspiracy of proving them wrong has something to do with it because they've been clinically experimenting on this shit this whole fucking time, right? And at the end of the day, they've been doing this shit for centuries. Um, really the last 400 years. Uh, it just seems like once it gets to the middle, like 60%, 60 years within that 100 years, a pandemic happens. Somewhat kind of beginning of the 60, but it's usually like 60, it's usually, really, it's just been every 120 years, every 60 years. And every 10 years, but each era was also a science experiment, right? That's how you know weed was that thing. And then they ended up doing clinical research on that. As you can see, in the expanded access, they really didn't even give weed out to that many people. They gave them a lot of it. And what you think them people did? Took it to the streets, right? It's pretty much how a lot of drug dealers that's in jail right now are tied to some shit because of their wisdom that they had and just being around in their environment and the people that they were with and dealing with that had made money. They use a lot of shit against them. So, that being said, the expanded access or the compassionate use is the use of an unapproved drug, or I'm going to say patent, or medical device under the special forms of investigational new drug applications, IND and IDE, for devices outside of clinical trial by people with serious or life-threatening conditions who do not meet the enrollment criteria for the clinical trial in progress. These programs undergo various names including Early Access, Special Access, or Managed Access Programs, Compassionate Use, Compassionate Access, Named Patient Access, or Named Patent Access, Temporary Authorization for Use, Cohort Access, or Pre-Approval Access. So the company has to choose to cooperate, and the medicines agency needs to agree that the risks and the possible benefits to the drug or device are understood well enough to determine if the person at risk has a sufficient potential benefit, which is saying that you're a positive variant. But the thing is, these illnesses or diseases are not natural. They come from the government that's providing it over the counter, behind the counter, or in the streets by people who done got their hands on it because it was distributed by these governments, right? So this agree to the risk of possible benefits of the drug or device are understood well enough to determine if putting the person at risk is sufficient for potential benefit. In some countries, the government will pay for the drug or device, which are you paying for it with your taxes. But in many other countries, a person may pay for the drug or device, which is still with taxes, or some people's actually coming out of pocket. You feel me? That's like having no insurance. But either way, if they're doing free clinical trials, tests, that means the trial has already been done. This is a trial on the masses, though, because they can't have everybody literally in the hospital until a negative effect happens, right? All they have to do is put you under x-rays, or uh, put you under radiation, or x-ray radiation, which is actually coming from the sun right now because the magnetic field is depleted. So as the energy goes up, up, and up on the 369 cycle, the UV index gets higher. So as the UV index get higher, then that affects your cells, right? So reason I've been telling people to fast, because it helps you get your memory back. It helps repair your DNA strands. And when you're doing that, that means you're getting more red blood cells. And the thing about red blood cells, they hold charge. Charge is electricity, is voltage, right? It's energy. Your cells don't actually die out. They get junk inside of them, which doesn't allow it to operate the way it's supposed to. It can't move around because now it's stuck in a solid. It's supposed to be in the liquid and gas form. And now that the UV index is higher, you're dealing with higher heat, and you're dealing with different radiation. And that being said, your carbonated beam or neuromelanated beam is trying to take your state of matter to a higher state, which is plasma, right? But a lot of junk in it comes from animals, parasites from animals, and cholesterol from the alchemy that they use in ingredients. And what does cholesterol do when you have high cholesterol? It makes blood pressure problems. Because the key is your heart, in the physical and the mental and the spiritual side of it. because the heart is the Merkaba, is the generator, right? So that being said, the cholesterol that's in it, or the drug for cholesterol, which really closes your sodium channels and allow whatever else to reproduce itself. That's like the same with pain pills too. It kind of deals with the same thing with your spleen. So you might be on it and it clog up the pain, right? But like when you're off of it, it makes your back weaker because it ties to your spleen. When your sodium channels are blocked, that's blocking your antibodies and your melanin, your blood, and your plasma. So when that happens, that means your antibodies can't fight off properly whatever is fighting off. And that causes red blood destruction in your spleen. Your spleen is connected to your solar plexus, right? And them trying to figure out the God particle is them trying to figure out how do black people connect to the solar system and below because of our 9 ether genetics, right? Most of them are 6 ether beings or just 3. Um, so that being said, their studies is always trying to figure out how infrared light is transmuted through the third eye, because through your hands, feet, and eyes, those are the biggest absorbents. But the thing is, light coming from the alternates of you and the states of you, like fire, water, air, whoop-de-whoop, is made for your body. So that being said, your body picks up on frequencies, your organs. That's why when they're attached to your organs deal with your X gene, and that's attached to your imagination. So when you're attached to these certain emotions, it fucks with your awareness. And if it's messing with your awareness, it's messing with your frequency of receiving, which is like intuition also. So like say your body is a receiver, but it can also output energy. So when it comes to light transmission in your DNA, it's your DNA is the tree of life. Once it's binded back together, and your solar connection helps you deal with the solar system. This is why we didn't need books. We just pointed our hands at the sun because of the DNA code that we're connected to. It makes us omnipresent everywhere. It's just like if your phone wanted to connect other places, it has to be connected to satellites, right? So we're pretty much like humanoid beings. We're light body beings that connect to uh, the solar system because the stars are like satellites. For me, so we have our own Sirius satellite system, not the radio. But that's how our communications are. Because where the lights start is serious. It's just it connects to other networks from in the solar system. That's what they're trying to figure out how we do naturally. But in my eyes, I think they already know. And they're trying to act like they don't know to push on whatever the fuck they've been doing. Because they wouldn't even get this far if they didn't know. Period. But the only thing they can ever do is interrupt with the frequency and put you in a situation of to where you're doing it to yourself, right? Because how do you turn a God against a God? You have to turn God against himself. That's the only way you can defeat God. But that's the thing, you can never defeat God because God knows thyself. And once, say if God got manipulated, right, and started making havoc, he lost himself. Now he's in a sleeping slumber, lost. But then the thing is, nature always take care of nature. When you make a call, somebody that's attached to your energy is going to feel it. That's like if someone's looking at you, you feel them looking at you, you turn around, you see them. It's telepathy. So some people don't know who their bloodline's attached to. I'm starting to realize mine. So it's like shit's coming clear. But I want y'all to read something called the Expanded Access and the Class Action Act, and then everything I be talking about. Because in my eyes, all that shit ties to this xenobot named after an African clog frog are synthetic life forms that are designed by computer to perform some desired function and built by combining together different biological tissues. Biological tissues. I feel like that's your DNA, right? Whether xenobots or robots, organisms or something else entirely remains a subject. The thing about this is the T cell that they use came from animals, different animals. All the animals that they named the mutation after dealt with that. When they spoke of gamma delta, that dealt with a brainwave frequency, right? And brainwave frequencies deals with what? Your nervous system in all different states. So look, whether xenobots or robots, organisms or something else entirely remains a subject of debate among scientists. This is the thing. The xenobot helps the T cell reproduce itself like a red blood cell does. So it has to interfere with your hydrogen and carbon links first of all. So once the sodium channels are blocked, then the xenobot with the T cell is able to move in on your links because now your antibodies, your amino acids, your real what they call proteins, you're getting proteins. The spike proteins come from animals, right? Your amino acids is your DNA fighting back. Your amino acids, natural amino acids, come from natural foods, being what your DNA is attached to. Nature, right? Reason why Joshua said eat from the ground, because your DNA is attached to the ground. So when you consume things from the ground, you're getting the right minerals and shit that you need to eat for your cells to reproduce. Because if your cells reproduce in a positive effect, the reaction comes as the black atom, or like, because now your cells are getting its charge, and most of your cells are radioactive, like the things that they build. Nuclear bombs come from melanin in the cells of neuromelanin. This is neuroscience, right? It's metaphysics. This is dealing with pathology, biology, which is study of life. Pathology is your nervous system and how it reacts to heat and light in your environment. Shit like that. And then biochemistry. Chemistry is alchemy. Biochemistry is alchemy mixed with nature. So synthetic mixed with nature. So you take an animal from nature, but the thing is, the indigenous people of this planet are not genetically made from fucking animals or different type of animals, which are the same animals that they use for all these illnesses, right? It's the same illness. That's why if you look up something called CDID, it talks about how Caucasians and Europeans, about 50% was actually producing the virus by itself without nothing. And it was saying like African Americans and Asians were less prevalent to it. Some shit like that. So boom. But that's the thing. Biochemistry is nature mixed with synthetics. But at the end of the day, chemistry doesn't always have to be synthetic. It just makes a different compound within you, which makes it synthetic to you. Well, it could be, right? So that being said, uh, yeah. So the cholesterol blocks the sodium channels, allowing the xenobot with the Tino cell to reproduce itself together, combining different biological tissues, which is your DNA, because the whole task was to use it to control uh, your DNA. Is for AI intelligence. Is for AI surveillance, because just like it's been in ancient times, Xenia was the Greek form of hospitality to see who was divine. And as they see that, like in these times, there's not many gatherings or little towns where people see one person walking like an old movie and be like, he's not from here. These days, you have social media, which is the social media, right? So they find out who's divine, and then by that time, is as they're researching, they're really learning off the people who's waking up to themselves. So low key, yeah, it's a good thing to spread the word, but it's at the same time you have to realize what you're battling against too, because they know this is going to happen, and but at the same time, they know you can say something that they need to know, right? And at the same time, people are getting pointed out and on the list for like Holocaust type shit, because once they round up all the countries like they planned on doing by March 2023, world order will be passed, and a lot of bullshit will be present, period. A lot of people might be taken away from their families, all types of shit. That's just reality. And you can say I sound crazy, but in my eyes, you look crazy for not even being able to understand something that's so simple. Because if I'm finding the words and everything for you, how am I tripping? That being said, let's move on. So, Xenobot, you see as an X, that is the feminine version because it's a Latin word. So when you're dealing with Spanish, you have your Latin ways of saying it. I mean, you have your feminine way, your masculine way, and then the unisex way. You have first person, second person, third person speaking to low key is 6 different versions of it. Because Latin and Spanish speak different, and they use different letterings too. But at this end of the day, it deals with Latin. I mean, it deals with a feminine aspect and a male aspect, right? They call it a love language for a reason. But look, so it might hold a lot of power to it. But look, Zeno, which is still pronounced Zen, with a Z, means give to Zeus. Give to Zeus, Zeus is Satan, right? Zeus and his sister try to give Chronos, which Chronos represents time, right? But he tried to give Chronos this acid, kill him. So look at bot, an autonomous program on the internet or another network that can interact with users. Alright. How small is a xenobot? Xenobots built to have been less than 1 millimeter, 0.04 inches wide, and composed of just two things: skin cells and the heart muscle cells. Melanin and the main heart muscle cells, both of which are derived from stem cells harvested from an early blastula stage frog embryo. But the thing is, they were using fucking monkeys, cows, birds, and all of that. Cause what was it doing? Reproducing the same shit that happened once before, like your bird flu, mad cow disease, um, HIV, gonorrhea, um, herpes, all types of shit, right? This is why a lot of random people been catching this shit lately, even more, because they literally brought it back as it was going away. But in my eyes, it was going back away because the magnetic field was breaking. People were starting to think more, started to get more money, businesses. It was always duality though, because people were still attached to emotions that's not of them. So then that would bring negative effects to it. But the thing is, they were doing things in different areas, so they used different animals, right? But that's why the mutation is uncontrollable, because it came from an animal. All diseases come from animals. So when you realize that, period, then you see where it comes from, right? All diseases come from animals. So even if you're consuming the shit and you're dealing with a higher rate of the sun, you can develop problems from food way faster within like 2 or 3 years, which probably would have took you 30 years to produce, right? Because the intensity of the sun is higher, so that means the atoms or the cells inside of your body is moving around faster because it's in a higher state now in your environment. It's like solid, liquid, gas. The faster it moves, it goes into a different state, right? So our state is pretty much liquid gas until you're constipated. Now you have a solid liquid gas, right? You're supposed to be in a liquid gas plasma state, because the more that your shit starts to become a solid state, then you can become a limestone state. You feel me? So look, which is reason why a lot of cells that are found in limestone type rocks or bedrocks or like weird shaped rocks is because they're living organisms inside of those rocks, or like plasma, or like comets, and they come and land. They're living organisms still on that rock. The thing is, you don't know what type of organism is on that bitch. All it takes is the cell to get uh, exposed to light and heat, just like an egg. So that could be a fifth or sixth period in time if you look in history, those type of creatures. So a lot of people can see dragons and all types of shit because those eggs been getting exposed to heat and light. That's why like Jurassic Park, when they had the Jurassic Park eggs, they put it under a light bulb and made it cozy, because for that egg to hatch, it has to be in heat and it has to be in light because heat and light are the reactant of the cells, right? And when you're inserting something that's not of you, that begins to make your cells die, right? And the thing is, the Xenobot is an AI built, and it literally duplicates the animal cell. So as your cells, your antibodies or your red blood cells are being blocked out from the cholesterol drug and the sodium channels, is allowing that cell to reproduce itself and not allowing your cells to fight. So then that comes when the CMEs hit. It's making that cell duplicate even more, especially if you're not on an alkaline diet, because an alkaline diet will actually charge your cells and fry that shit out of you, especially under the sun. And at this time, you should use the clouds that's being covered. It's time to fast, because once the season that they say winter or spring is going to be way hotter than it was these last 2 years. And if your melanin, blood, or plasma isn't cleared up, then that can cause paralysis problems within your arms and your legs, which therefore is a stage of showing that it's coming from your heart and your brain and your reproduction area. And the red blood cells begin to die in your spleen because they're trying to cut off the solar connection. Because they can get to your solar connection, really detach all your organs that is aligned to your chakras. Because through your cycle of bloodstream, it hits all of those chakras, right? And that being said, your chakras are awarenesses, so they pick up on frequencies. They're trying to control you through frequencies, right? And that's how they would be able to through a computer, because of 5G. The 5G and 6G is for the energy, because they only got the network they're using. The only way they got it is from manipulating air, water, fire into their own use for money, something that's free for everybody, right? And then made their own replication of telecommunication, the telephone, and GPS satellites. Like, we don't need none of that shit because we naturally have it. It sounds so weird because people are used to technology. That's why it's going to be so bad when everything crashes. Because if you don't know how to move, tap in with yourself, then you're going to be stressed the fuck out. It says we're going with the spirit. And then that's when another part comes into a shadow work, because you're already dealing with people who don't listen. And really, everyone's here for their own mission. Not saying like be selfish, but it's gonna have to come times when you just have to use common sense and worry about self. But the key is like once you figure out the bullshit, you won't even worry about none of that shit because now you know thyself. It's like some whole samurai shit, but that's the key. Can't tell you how to know thyself. It's only you know thyself, right? Just like saying God, the only person that knows what goes on with you. You're the only person that knows. It's you the only person that knows if you lied about some shit or told the truth about some shit. You the only person that knows your downfall. If you can't see your downfall, then you don't know yourself. If you can't see other people's downfalls, then you don't know yourself. If you feel like you have to be confused about shit, then you don't know yourself. If you don't understand why you're feeling the way you feel every day, then you don't know yourself because you're worried about someone else more than you. And not saying it's a bad thing to worry about somebody else, but when you're worrying about someone else, you're worrying about yourself too. So, time to love yourself again and find out where shit all started from. You gotta see what's of you and what's not of you. But first, you gotta see who it came from. Because they made yourself your own enemy. But you wouldn't even do that if you didn't have an enemy. It's called strategic. Uh, that's how the military work. It's like strategic war. Um, Sometimes you don't have to shoot a person in the head to kill them. You just have to turn themselves against yourself. Cartoons even show that. So look, so the thing is that cell from the Xenobot and that AI is gonna reproduce faster because the way of eating that most people do is the perfect environment for it because it needs mucus so it can like keep the sodium channels blocked and also reproduce itself. Because it can't reproduce itself without the mucus. That's why the fasting comes to play, because the fasting or the alkaline keeps your rivers flowing. And then an alkaline river means that it has a charge, meaning it has energy. So like, say you step into an alkaline river with no shoes on, you're gonna feel the energy charge your whole body, literally. You step into a filthy, acidic lake, you're gonna feel disgusting, period. Not by the way it looks, but by the shit that you're absorbing, right? So that's the whole point. And then under the sun, it duplicates way faster. So they've been doing this shit with foods and shit already, but they needed something to target the DNA because of the memory. They can find whatever they're trying to find through the memory because they can't physically go back in time. They just kind of got control of the loops, right? But the loops is part of our Akashic records, and we're gonna pick up on this tomorrow. So I don't even know why I made 2 lives just not to pick back up on it. But Peter Elias is a key suspect, right? Because he made it deals with this. The Elias Delta. And remember, Delta means the UV of the sun. So this symbol right here, dealing with the DNA, is trying to find a universal code that's encoded. But the universal code is encoded into our DNA and RNA and DEA. You feel me? So that's why they need the AI within the body to corrupt the DNA, right? Because this is part of transhumanism. To find the God gene, they have to find the encoding. They're waiting on one person because they need his blood, meaning someone that's unlocked their self, unlocked their DNA to a higher extent. But the thing is, it's not one person who did. It's many more that is. But it also deals with energy. So they need this person blood to call in the blood of God. But look, I'm gonna just end it with a couple of these so I remember where to pick off. So Elias Delta coding. Boom. Elias Omega coding. Coding in the Python is the triangle because we're pretty much in a triangular cube or a tetrahedron cube. It'll all make sense after a while because we're gonna learn together and find it. But look, Peter Elias Delta code. Elias Delta. I forgot what I was about to say. Oh yeah, they call him for the blood god. I don't know who the hell that is, but the only thing that I hear of blood usually be the blood of Jesus, or Jesus is Zeus, so the blood of Zeus. Let's see what the blood god is. Carneth? The fuck? No disrespect. Corn. Known as Blood God, the Lord of Murder, the Lord of Skulls, Hunter of Souls, and the Hound. So when they give this sacrifice from with whoever blood they choose to use, if they even get it, that's when they're gonna move in. That's what it sounds like. door to door, and they're most likely gonna do it when the grid's down. And the door to door shit is like giving out food, but at the same time, they're gonna be trying to check paperwork because it's gonna be a NATO list. And dealing with emergency government, I don't see fully the U.S. doing so because the U.S. goes to other countries and do shit more than they do in this country. And knowing that this country is been giving land to these foreigners because that's who they're attached to, the government allies is really the whole government. At the end of the day, this is about genocide on my race of people, and whoever that's down for my race of people, or anything that goes against their government. Because really, my race of people started this shit too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the rising and the falling. We're rising, they're falling. I had never heard of this person. So Corn followers favor close combat with melee weapons, pulverizing wizards and psychers, considering them to be below a true warrior and gaining undue advantages from their spells. Let's just type up Greek, even though I think that was Greek. There you go. One of the most known myths considering Ichor is Talos, the Cretan god. Talos, a bronze-winged giant created by Hephaestus at request of Zeus to protect his daughter Europa, or Europe, had ichor running through a single vein in his body. In Greek mythology, ichor is the ethereal fluid that is blood of the gods and immortals. The ethereal, you see, ethereal fluid is the ether, which is the neuromelanin. So it's going to be a blood sacrifice from melanated being when they make this call. And this have something to do with these alignments. So Jupiter, Juno, maybe, Aries, Mars, and Aries is Nibiru, I think. His half-sister Athena represented more noble aspects of the civil conduct during war, like the three sisters represented the Chimera. So that sounds like what they've been trying to do with Upsidon or something. Not Upsidon, somebody. Oh, the Antichrist. Right. They need a certain blood they need the bloodline to even do so. That's what they did once before with the sacrifice of Zeus, or the sacrifice of Jesus. He had the bloodline, right? They had to, in their eyes. But he knew that. Alright, so thing is, let's look up Blade, Blood God. Who was the blood god in Blade? La Magra. What does that mean? Is immensely powerful and ancient blood god, the patron deity of vampires, and an important figure in the vampire lore as he created Drake. The first vampire, which is another word for draconian. Draconian. The first vampire. La Magra can only be summoned through a special ritual that requires the blood of the Daywalker, or the blood of the Skywalker. Feel me? So look, let's see what La Magra is. Magra, I was just gonna say Magra, meaning Magra, low water in the river, scarcity of money. Lean meat. Magra meaning sun. Dealing with hell. Let's see if they peep something that can help. Alright, so the original Blade Trilogy, short overview. Frost, the leader of the group, vampire. Throughout the trilogy, Blade faced other opponents as well as many characters. You know the crazy thing is, same mixture that they were using in Blade for the immunity of zombies. It's the same mixture they use um, in Africa for the vaccine, which at the end of the day is they just mix garlic with the vaccine. But it might be acetylcholine and garlic, which is the dose. So acetylcholine, yeah. I really want to find what the fuck that shit means. Alright, so their ability, Dagra Magra, is a mind control curse that curses its targets or receivers by ravaging their consciousness with hallucinations, causing them to attack everyone in sight with no regard on whom they might be, allies or foes, friends or enemies. What does that sound like? We have to stop them. We have to.